put your net worth at negative $101,537. What is your initial reaction to that number?
Don't talk to me about that because mine's way below zero. My name is Talia Price. I'm 43 years old and I'm currently in Long Beach, California.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm an executive assistant for a forensic accounting firm.
And how long have you been doing that for?
A little over 2 years now, yeah.
And how much you make a year right now?
With the slight raise that my boss gave me, about $50,000 a year.
Okay. And what did you do prior to becoming an executive assistant?
I was as a sales supervisor at Uniqlo.
And what were you making on an annual basis in that previous role?
It was $17 an hour. Let's just say.
That's quite a jump going from 17 up to 50,000 then.
Yeah, but see, when I was working at Uniqlo, I had, roommates. So my rent was pretty low. Now that I'm living on my own, my rent's kind of high. So it's a huge difference, yes, but still.
So some lifestyle creep definitely has taken place with that. So looking at your current situation, how do you define yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, your current financial picture?
Scale of 1 to 10, maybe a solid 4 if I'm lucky.
And why do you say that?
Because I'm living paycheck to paycheck. And my rent increased this year because I've been in this place for over a year that it increased. And I look at the amount that I take home. I really don't see much of a difference from when I was working at the other job because that was paycheck to paycheck. I had to cancel a lot of subscriptions. I've had to stop seeing my therapist because she was costing me a lot of money. I don't go shopping, like for clothes shopping. The only thing I would say that I spend besides rent and bills and food that I spend my money on is going to concerts, but that has stopped. Like I would be going to Pro Jam right now, tonight, but I got priced out of their tickets. I'm like, I don't want to sit all the way at the top of the nosebleed to see you guys. Like, what is this? So yeah, that's diminishing now. So
let's talk about your current debts then. What different debts do we have right now?
Rent, credit card, student loan. But the thing is, with all the stuff that's going on with Biden, I'm sort of waiting to see the outcome of that. But mostly it's just rent, bills, and credit card.
Okay, so it looks like you have about $2,137 worth of credit card debt. That's where your balance is right now. Student loans, what is the balance of your student loans?
Last time I checked, it was like 50,000.
50,000. You put in your initial questionnaire is about 100,000.
Yeah, because interest. See, the original was 50,000, but the interest has made it up to close to that. I haven't checked. It's probably more than that now.
Oh, so you originally took out 50, but now it's up to over about 100,000 then.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll put 100,000 in. So that's your total balance what you owe right now?
Roughly, yeah.
Roughly? Okay. Do you know what the interest rate is on that?
It just increases. Like last time I checked, it was about 20%.
20% on your student loans?
Yeah, because this is I graduated. I got my master's in 2006.
Okay. I have not heard 20% on student loans. Are they private or are they federal?
Private.
Private. Okay. Yeah, that's definitely something you should check out.
Because I had to do a forbearance, so that added on to it.
So private loans, you said you're waiting for the government, but private loans aren't eligible for forgiveness.
But I also have federal, I think.
So you have federal too.
Yeah, I have to check all of that.
We've got a whole mess of student loans. We're not quite sure on where they are, who has them. We just know that it's increased from 50,000 to about 100,000.
That's the last time, because when he announced it, I went to check and it said I had like a little over 100,000. I'm thinking, okay. And then this was like, I think it was right after the pandemic or right around the time of the pandemic. So I just stopped because it was giving me anxiety.
Are you making minimum payments on them at all?
I haven't made any payments because I can't.
That's a problem too, because even if you're on an income-based repayment plan, a lot of them, the federal ones, you're not eligible for certain programs if you miss payments. And so a lot of the new programs right now is if you make 20 years of eligible payments, that could qualify you for forgiveness. But if you're not making payments on it, then that can dequalify you from ever doing that. So I guess suggestion number one, you got to figure out after this, where are your student loans, how much, who do you owe, who are the creditors, is it federal, public, what is the interest rate, what are the different payment plans that have on them, do you qualify for any current programs because you've had them for 18 years, but that is something you really need to hone in on and figure out because it's going to be difficult to solve that student loan problem if you don't know where it is. I can't really give you much advice if we don't know where they are, how much they are, what the interest rate is, all of that. So definitely something you need to do. And then you said rent. Are you behind on rent right now?
No.
Okay, so rent, you don't have any debt for rent. So it's just the credit cards and student loans. No personal loans, no car loans.
No, I don't even have a car.
Okay, so total debt's $102,137. What assets do we have right now?
None.
Do you have any retirement accounts?
I have a pension from my job. It takes out like 1 or 2% from my Check.
Is it a pension or is it a 401k?
401k.
Okay, so 1 to 4 or 1 to 2% right now in your 401k, and then so no other retirement accounts. And then how much do you have in your bank account right now?
A little over 600.
$600. Okay, so that means we've got to make some changes right now because 43 time is of the essence right now if you want to retire one day. So in your retirement account in your 401k, do you know what your balance is right now?
No, I don't know.
Don't know? Okay, that's nothing I guess you need to figure out. Got to know your numbers with finances.
Yep.
So total assets, $600 plus whatever the retirement account might be. Total debts, $102,137. We put your net worth at negative $101,537. What is your initial reaction to that number?
Not shocking at all. When people talk about net worth, I'm just like, don't talk to me about that because mine's way below zero.
Have you calculated your net worth before?
No, this is the first time I've actually did it. Like when I sent you some of the paperwork. Yeah, that was the first time I wasn't shocked. So I wasn't like, oh my God. I'm like, no, I'm just like, yeah. Because it's just if I'm living paycheck to paycheck and I don't spend a lot of money, like I don't buy designer stuff. I don't go on expensive holidays or anything like that. So I'm struggling with just, oh my God, let me choose. Should I buy the generic vegetables or the organic ones? It's like organic is 50 cents more than this one. So I'm making life decisions at the grocery store. So I'm not shocked.
Okay. We got to figure out being 43 years old. We got 20 some years, 24 years towards official retirement age. Social Security going to be here when get to that point. I don't know. I can't tell the future. It's expected to run out in 10 or 11 years from now, I believe. So we got to figure out how do we get you from where you are right now to a spot that you can retire and have some financial stability, because this is not a spot I want you to be in for the rest of your life. I don't want you to wake up when you're 60 years old and have $100,000 worth of debt. But before we kind of dive into your current monthly expenses and budget, I want to kind of take it back to your childhood. Where did you grow up and kind of what did you learn from your parents about money growing up?
I grew up in New Brunswick, New Jersey, so I'm an East Coaster. And when it came to money, I always remember my mother, like especially growing up, because my biggest thing was Barbie, especially Barbie, and going to get pizza. And yeah, I just remember, especially when I was a child, I heard the word no more than I heard the word yes. Like Toys R Us was like my favorite store in the world because it had everything that I wanted. And I remember there's two instances in my childhood, one in my childhood, one in my teenage years. My childhood was, I don't even know if they do this anymore, but during the month of December, Mattel would come out with the holiday Barbie, and the holiday Barbie was just gorgeous. She was usually wearing this beautiful ball gown. She was just gorgeous hair, gorgeous everything. And that doll, I remember back then was like $50, and that was like very expensive for a Barbie doll. Like that's like back then. And I remember my mom was like, absolutely not. Especially during the month of December, I would go to Toys R Us and I would just look at that holiday Barbie going, I just wish I could. Because it really pissed me off because when I went to school, there's a girl in my school that had it. Every year she would get it. And I was like, what? How come she gets one every year and I don't? And like, what is that? It was so annoying. And a second story was when I was like 13, 14 years old, when Calvin Klein jeans became like the thing. And they had those Calvin Klein ads with Kate Moss. And I remember going to Macy's. This is when Macy's was Macy's. And seriously, it's not anymore, but nothing against Macy's. But I would go there, the display for Calvin Klein jeans. It was just gorgeous. And you had Kate Moss and you had all those gorgeous models. And the jeans were $50. I was like, oh my God. And my mom was like, absolutely not. No, I'm not going to, this is what she told me. I'm not going to spend money for you to have a pair of jeans with someone else's name on it. Mind you, everyone else in my school had Calvin Klein jeans, had, Levi's, all of that, all the name brand ones, not me. Kmart, that's the one that I had. Those type of jeans with who knows whose name is on it or no name. And I was just like I hated it. I hated hearing the word no. I hated not being able to afford anything. I'm not saying that we live poor. I would say we were lower middle class, but I just remember that the relationship that especially my mother had with money was always, it was always this, no, like it caused her anxiety, it caused her stress, and it was always no. It's like money itself was just a negative thing. As I grown up, I'm thinking I don't want to have that relationship with money. I want to have a relationship where I am comfortable with money. I love having money. I know they say the love of money is the root of all evil, but the thing is, try living without it. But that's another story. But I want to change that idea because you need money to live on this planet. I don't make the rules. That's just how it is. So why should I be afraid and see a negative thing of something that we need on this planet?
So you don't want to have that scarcity mindset like your mother had, but how would you kind of define your current mindset and mentality towards money?
It's a more of a love-hate relationship than it was before. Before it was just hate, hate, hate. Now it's more of a love-hate relationship. And I'm thinking it's like trying to get back into shape, basically. When a person's gained a lot of weight or some weight, and they think like I need to lose weight, I need to get back in shape. That's how I feel about money now. I want to get back into shape with money. I want to the relationship not be a love-hate one, but just a love one. And not be pissed off when I see a bill. I just got a notification 5 minutes before meeting with you that, oh, your statement for your phone bill's ready for next month. I'm like, gee, I just paid it last week. Now I got to, you know, but that's for next month. But I was like, you know what? I'll deal with it in the month of June. I'm not going to worry about it now. But that's what I'm saying. It's like I want to have that relationship where I get a bill. I'm like, okay, I can pay for this bill. I don't have to worry about it. And if I want to do something nice for myself, I can do it.
Well, also, I want to kind of dive into your current finances and what you're operating or how you operate your current finances. But before I do that, I kind of want to talk about your education. So it sounds like you got your master's. What did you get your master's in?
International relations.
Okay. So you got that in 2006. What have you been doing as, like, I guess, career path the last 18 years? EA the last 2 years, prior years making 17 an hour as a sales supervisor. What did you do those prior 14 or 15 other years?
I traveled because I got my master's in Australia and I started working for a telecommunications company in Melbourne. And I was making pretty good money there. And the worst thing I would say is I fell in love with a guy. We were supposed to get married. We moved to Poland and that relationship fizzled like anything. So I had to find a way to bring myself back up. So I taught English, I traveled some more, and then I came back to the States back in 2017. And then I look around and then the jobs like, oh, well, no other corporate job or company would hire me. So I had to do like a retail job. And that was only supposed to be temporary, but then I was like still looking, but I just felt trapped in that company. And then the pandemic happened, and then I just sat tight because I didn't know what was going to happen during that and after that. So,
okay. So, I mean, right now in the state of California, your income is definitely pretty low for how expensive it is. So, California's median income, I guess, as a per household is 90,000. I guess that's a household. So, but either way, probably some upward trajectory movement that you could have from where you are now in the $50,000 range. So have a love-hate relationship with money now. Sounds like if you cut back on some different expenses, and before we dive into your current budget and monthly expenses that you send over, do you track your expenses every single month, or how do you kind of manage your finances currently?
I always like when I get my check, I always save at least $600 to pay for rent for next month's rent. Yeah, it used to be 500, then I increased it to 600, and then the rest I use to pay for my phone bill, my light bill. I don't have to pay water, thank God. Gas bill, some streaming services, because I also have to pay for trash.
So basically set aside 600 for next month's rent. The rest of it is spending money for living, food, and anything else that comes up. Okay. Do you track and know how much money you're spending every single month, like on a total basis? Or do you know how much you're spending on food, how much money you're spending on shopping, how much you're spending on different categories, or no?
No, because food changes from time to time because just like even my internet increased by $20. It used to be $50. Now it's $71 because I had like a promo with Spectrum, but then, oh, it ran up. Now we have to pay $71.99. I used to be able to keep track of it like almost to a T like last year, but then everything increased. So I'm thinking, okay, now I have to cut back on certain foods, but I need food. I need food to live. I need, water. I need all this kind of stuff. And sometimes I will need like necessities, like, toothbrush, toothpaste, necessity things. So I try to keep track of it as much as I can. I try not to check my bank account every day because that would just drive me crazy. But I try to keep up to par with it just so I know, okay, this is how much I have. But I know I could do better, but this is better than I've done before because before that, I used to just spend money without ever thinking or even caring.
So not currently tracking everything. That's one thing too that I would suggest is like need to make sure that you're tracking every single expense and categorizing it too, because that gives you a much better picture. Okay, yes, sometimes it would vary month to month depending on food or things that come up, but at least like I can look back any month for the last 7 years, know how much money I spent on this exact month on food, on shopping. And one month, if I spend too much on food, then know, okay, the next month I need to tune it down. I need to not eat out as much. I need to make sure I don't shop as much. Or if I know that I have vacations coming up, or if I know I have weddings coming up, that I need to be setting aside money for those certain events too. So that's one thing, is like the little expenses on your debit card, on your credit cards don't seem like much, but when you swipe it 30, 40 times a month, it adds up quickly. And you might not think you spent $500 on food, but you really maybe spent $700. So that's one thing you really need to do, is budget and make sure you're tracking your different expenses. And there's some cool online tools. I use one called Copilot that I swapped to about 4 months ago, and I love it. But also some different tools and resources on budgeting as well. Take a look. That's just definitely one thing you definitely need to get a grasp on, to make sure you're managing your finances properly. But let's kind of dive into your monthly expenses then. Gross income, you put $4,100. Your net income, you put $3,100. And so that's basically how much you're receiving each month. Yeah, about $1,607 each pay cycle. Your monthly expenses, rent, you're paying $2,000 a month for rent?
Studio apartment.
Oh my. That is the big problem right now. When did you sign this lease?
Right now I'm on a month-to-month basis because I'm looking for another place, but I signed it last February.
Okay, so you've been in it for over 15 months then. What are you trying to do moving forward? Because I mean, this is 64% of your net income. The suggested amount, and granted, California is a high cost of living area, so this can change, but the typical percentage people want to have is between 25 and 30% of your net income. And right now you're at 64%. Rounding up is 65%. That number needs to go down drastically. So what is your current plan on housing right now? Like, where are you trying to move to? Are you trying to live on your own? You're trying to get roommates?
No roommates. I can't deal with roommates anymore. I can't sleep. I'm already having issues with this place because the walls are so thin I can hear my neighbors, and they're loud all the time, all day.
So is your plan right now to go find another place that's $2,000 a month?
Or find a place that's, well, mine is to find another job, basically. I want another job. I want another job somewhere else, not in Long Beach. The only reason I came to Long Beach is because my boss, he started his own company and he moved it to Long Beach. It was in like near Beverly Hills, because I was living in Glendale prior to all this. And that's where I had the roommate and everything. And then he decided to start his own company. He moved to Long Beach, and then I moved here. And this was actually to get, like, when it comes to washer, dryer, dishwasher, decent modern kitchen appliances, no air conditioning. I had to actually buy that myself. This was the cheapest I could find. And it's like not that far from where I work. So I don't have a car, so I can walk to and from work. But yeah, it's a studio.
Definitely something you're going to have to cut down. I know you said you don't want to do roommates, but roommates is an option that maybe it's short term for 12 months, or even renting. Granted, I don't know the Long Beach area at all, but I'm on Zillow and I put minimum or the maximum price $1,600, and there's a lot of places that are between $1,400 and $1,600 that are one bed or studios. I don't know the location. I haven't looked at all of them, that area, but it does seem like there's definitely some area that you can get down to at least, even you went to $1,600, and that would open up $400 more a month in money in your budget. That would be great. If you get roommates and you got that down to $1,100, that'd be great. But right now, you can't get rid of food. You can't get rid of a lot of things. And it doesn't look like you have that many fixed expenses, but rent is the biggest thing. So when 65% of your income is out the door on day one of the month to rent, you kind of screw yourself for the rest of the month and forever. It's like the likelihood of you changing your financial situation with having 65% of your income going towards your housing is going to be very slim. It's going to be very difficult to change that. So I'm just pointing out that is one thing you have to figure out, whether it's a cheaper place, whether it's roommates, something's got to give on that. But on the flip side, like you said, you can find another job that is higher paying and decrease your rent, then that's just a good arbitrage there, where you can get an extra couple $100 a month or $1,000 a month in income and lower expenses. I mean, that's a big swing in your monthly situation. So definitely things that we'll continue to talk about and look at. Home utilities, $72 for your Wi-Fi. Groceries, how much do you spend a month on food? Because you did not put anything on food in this budget.
It changes. I try to
Give me an estimate ballpark.
70.
Only $70 a month?
Yeah, I don't eat that much stuff.
My wife and I spend like $120 a week on food.
What do you guys eat?
Chicken, protein, and it's basically our grocery basket is protein and pasta. That's basically what I eat.
I eat pasta too, but what type of pasta do you eat?
I get the Buitoni fresh pasta.
Okay, that's the thing. That's more. I get the Barilla, which is...
It's only a couple of dollars more, but the meat usually we walk out the door because we'll get organic chicken and beef and stuff, and we'll walk out the door, it'll be like $70, it'll be $110, but 70 of it's protein. So
See, I eat chicken, but I eat more vegetables. That's the thing. I eat more vegetables.
I don't eat vegetables. So
Oh, see, there you go.
okay, subscriptions $67, eating out 60, entertainment 100. So your total fund money 227, total living expenses $2,400, and your minimum payment on your credit card 75. So that brings your total monthly expenses to about $2,445, which means in theory, if you were sticking to this budget, that is $655 a month that you would have left over after all your expenses, which is not where we're living right now. So that means this budget's incorrect. There's stuff in here that we're not accounting for, and we're spending more money than we think. So if you think you're spending $2,400 and some change, that's not the reality right now. So that's why it's very important to make sure you track every single expense every single month to know how much I'm actually spending in these different categories and what do I need to change next month, what do I need to cut back on, and that'll help you kind of identify areas of improvement in your financial situation. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
We got $600 missing right there between the expenses and on the budget sheet. So looking at your statement, I have two statements for you. I have the one from January 26th to February 26th, and then I have February 27th to March 25th. So we'll look at the January to February one. You started the statement with $126. You had $3,788 deposited to your account, but you withdrew $3,880 during this statement period. So you ended the balance was $34.23. So off the bat, you are a big shopper at Vons.
Yeah, that's the grocery store.
Okay, Vons is the grocery store? Okay.
Is that I guess it's a West Coast thing because they don't have, you're on the East Coast, right? So they don't have that.
I do not have Vons over in the East Coast, but okay, I see you said $70 for groceries, but between the first 5 days of the statement, we have $22, $33, $13, and $32. So we spend about $100 on groceries in the first 5 or 6 days of the month, which means you're going to be way over the $70 you're projecting for the entire month if that happened the first few days.
Now, does beauty products count as groceries and like toilet paper and all that kind of stuff?
That would count, I mean, personal care. But again, this is why I'm just looking at the transactions that this is Vaughn's like categorizing it as groceries. But we didn't have anything under personal care on the budget sheet either. So whether it's personal care or it's groceries, we're definitely spending more than that's on this current budget sheet. So we've got Uber Eats. Why are we Uber Eating for $27?
Because they had a promo.
Talia, that is one thing you can't, when you ended the statement with $34 in your bank account and you had spent $27 on a single meal on Uber Eats. Those are the things that you can't afford to do when you don't have money. And like, if you want to change your current financial situation, we got to stop that. We can't have Uber Eating, buying stuff on Amazon, like unnecessary things when you can't afford to live right now. Like, those things destroy you and will set you back so far. So it's like Uber Eats, that's something that definitely has to go. Prime Video for $3. We've got another Amazon Prime for $16. We've got, I see your therapist on here. T-Mobile, $124. Do we have a financed phone? Do we have an iPad? Do we have an Apple Watch? Why do we have a $124 monthly phone plan?
Finance phone. Yeah, finance phone.
Okay, so when did you finance that phone?
Last year.
Okay, what was wrong with your previous phone?
It crashed. Yeah, so I had to get a new phone.
What version phone did you have before?
I had the iPhone 8 Plus.
Okay, so an 8 Plus, and you upgraded to...
what is it? I think it's a 13.
So you didn't get the very newest, what is it, iPhone 15?
No, I don't usually get the newest iPhone. Not really.
Financing phones, they do it at 0%, but it also ways to get cheaper phones, used phones. I've bought used phones before online that are a lot cheaper, but that's just another trap that phone companies have is, hey, come finance this. You're going to lock into a 3-year plan basically with them to finance it, and it locks you in there. So those are things you have to typically stay away from. What else do we have on here? We've got more Amazon for $40. We've got a couple of Apple transactions. What is Grub Tools? It's a Grubhub, says online ordering, but it's another order delivery app that you're using right now that needs to not be using. Got more Vons. Uber for $51. So since you don't have a car, how much a month do you spend on Ubers?
Unless I'm going to, let's say, a concert or going someplace like in Los Angeles. So I haven't been to a concert since March.
I see 2 transactions, one for $26 and one for $50 for this month. But again, when you're writing a budget, you need to make sure you account for every single expense. So it's like, yes, you know you're going to have Uber charges because you don't have a vehicle, make sure you put that in your budget. Make sure you know, okay, I have $100 a month or $50 a month for transportation costs because you might have to go X, Y, and Z. If you don't use it in May, hey, you can roll it over to June and use that money in June. But again, things that you need to make sure that you are tracking. You Zelled someone $230 on February 20th. You know what that was for?
Yes, that was to get my hair done.
That was to get that is an expensive haircut.
It's not a haircut. It's a hair relaxer.
I don't know what a hair relaxer is, but either way, it's expensive.
Okay.
Those are things like right now, are there cheaper alternatives? Are there ways that you can prolong that?
Well, I'm trying to now. Yeah. So I usually don't get my hair done until like every 4 months. So it's not like something that I do like every month or something. But like, yeah, I usually every 4 months. So I usually blow dry my hair and keep it. And my hairstylist is very happy with that. Like, I'm glad you're keeping up with your hair. That's really good.
So that's something too. If you know you're getting your hair done every 4 months, $230 each time, that means every single month we need $60 at least in personal care just to save up for the haircut. And that way you know that you need to save that up every single month because you're going to have a haircut. You know it's coming in 4 months. We got to start preparing for it. Then we got Sephora and Bath and Body Works for $40 between those two. Chick-fil-A, Target for $10, Amazon for $20. What is Howard Fine LA?
Acting school on Zoom. He's my acting coach.
Okay, so again, figuring out, are those priorities and necessities right now for your current situation? I want you to pursue your passions. I want you to enjoy life. But when we got credit card debt, when we have ending the statement with $34 in your bank account, is that something that needs to be prolonged until you can save up money and pay for it when you have an emergency fund and you're out of debt? That is the route I would go. I don't want to be spending $200 on acting school when you got $34 in the statement. I would rather have prolonged the acting school for another 2 months, save up money, and then be able to pay for it and not be guilty about paying for it because you have money and stuff set aside for your finances. We've got, what else in here? A small little eating out stuff. What is Harper's?
Harper's Bazaar. Oh, yeah, that's my magazine subscription. I forgot all about that.
You have a magazine subscription? Those still exist?
Yeah, I think I might cancel it.
I would say that's $25 a month. That is almost as much in your bank, or almost as much money as in your bank account in the statement. So I would say whatever subscriptions you have, you need to be canceling right now that are not necessity, because those are things that can be back in your pocket and allow you to start fixing the situation. So that was the February statement. Let's go look at the February 27th to March 25th. So same thing here. $34 to start the statement, $37.71 coming in, $37.71 going out, $34 to end the statement. So do you have a online savings account? Because you transferred $500 in and it says from your savings account.
Yeah, I have 2 bank accounts.
Okay, is that where you transfer money to for rent and then it transfers back to start the month?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, wow. I see this rent payment for $2,027.34 on March 4th. That is brutal. Okay. We got Vons. We've got some eating out for $20. More Vons. Uber Eats again for $26. Amazon for $16. More Vons. I mean, you definitely, at Vons this month too, you spent $100 in the first 2 weeks. $40. So you spend $140 versus $70. So again, just make sure that you are tracking all your expenses. What is City of Long Beach for $90 on March 15th?
That's my gas. I overpaid my gas bill. So I don't have to, I have a credit with my gas company. So I don't have to pay.
Okay. So you overpaid your gas. We got Amazon for $21. Amazon again for $14. McDonald's. What is the Wiltern Los Angeles?
That's the concert.
The concert for $20. Okay. You got Lyft and Uber for to and from the concert, looks like, for $110 between the 2 trips. Sushi for $28. Another Lyft for $7. What is the Art of Waxing for $135?
What do you think what art of waxing is?
You're getting a wax.
Yes.
Again, those are things that right now, I'm all for personal care. I'm all for taking care of yourself, but we got to be budgeting for those things. And $135 there, $230 on the haircut. That is close to $400 in expenses. And it's what is going to change here? Like, if you change your rent and your rent goes down because you had a roommate, great, we can afford these things. If you don't change your rent, you're living life paycheck to paycheck, and it's very hard to justify spending $230 on a haircut, get your hair done, and $135 on waxing when we don't have money for rent the next month. So these are things that you got to change. Ideally, it's cut rent down and get a higher paying job, but in the interim, we can't be spending on things that are not true necessities. We got Trader Joe's, we got Uber, we got your Spectrum payment, we've got Lemonade, and we got, what is Pulp?
Oh, that's the concert.
Another concert, $97. Okay. So there goes all the money out the door in that month. And so you said you have $600 in your bank account. So that means since this statement that ended with $34, the balance has gone up, which is good. And then we've got the Quicksilver card. So your balance to end this statement, which ended April 14th, was $2,137. You paid $74. You spent $16 and you had $52 worth of interest. If you pay the minimum payment of $73, do you know how long it would take you to pay off this credit card?
It probably take forever because they keep but the interest rate.
14 years. So when you make a $73 payment, you get charged about $50 worth of interest. So only $23 goes towards the principal, which makes it a long, long process. So we got to get this debt paid off faster. Why do we use this card for Amazon Prime on April 10th? Why are we using...
That was something happened because I didn't, again, this is my misbudgeting. I thought I had more in my Wells Fargo card. So it took out the money from the Quicksilver. So yeah, so I just said, okay, now I'm going to make sure that no more eating out.
So your payment failed on the Wells Fargo card, so it uses this as a backup payment method?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so piece of advice for the credit card. Cut up your credit card, don't ever use it again. Because right now, we've showed that, hey, it sounds like you've been carrying this balance for a minute. You've been carrying at least for this entire year. But right now, you've paid $156 in interest. You got charged that a couple days ago again when that statement ended in May. So you're up to $200 this year. It's not worth the rewards. It's not worth anything with that. And the best thing you do is just not even have that ability to swipe that card and spend money you don't have. And thankfully, you only use it once in the statement period, but let's just eliminate all possibilities. If you don't have the money in your bank account, it's not getting bought. It doesn't allow you to go on a concert, doesn't allow you to go on a trip, doesn't allow you to go shopping if you don't have the money in your bank account, and that helps eliminate that risk. But cut it up, and until you're in a spot that you can pay off your debt, you can stick to a budget, then we can maybe revisit getting a credit card. But too many people open up credit cards to try to play the credit game or try to play the rewards game and find themselves in debt. So how long have you been carrying a balance on this credit card for?
Since last year. Yeah. Last year I went crazy. There was like a lot of concerts and I went crazy with the concerts. I said, now I'm paying for it. So
this $2,000 is all concert debt.
Oh, Depeche Mode, Arctic Monkeys, Beck, Phoenix, The Hives.
So we're living paycheck to paycheck because we're going to concerts and spending money we don't have.
That's why I'm not going to so many concerts this year, and I'm going to just, so that's why I agreed to do this podcast, because I'm like, I need to stop.
Oh, I've heard it's not as bad as some people. I've heard trips, I've heard other things, concerts. $2,000 is manageable to get out of. It's not the biggest number in the world, but it's still not good to be going into debt to go to a concert. So right now, looking at your current financial situation, there's a few things you need to work on. Number one, you need to know your numbers. Whether it's your student loans, whether federal, whether the public, what the interest rates are, what the minimum payments are on those. Is interest accruing right now because you're not making any payments, because you're not on an income-based repayment plan, or you haven't touched those in years. Your 401k, you need to know those numbers, because what's in your retirement account, what is that invested into, how much are you putting into that account? Are you getting a match in that account? That's something you need to identify too. If you're getting a match, that's great. Get the match, but if you're not getting a match, it might make more sense that you're living paycheck to paycheck right now to use that money to pay off debt to get out of it faster. So that's something you really understand. How much is going in there? Is there a match? What is the match? And then that can help identify what you should, if you continue that right now, or should you pay off debt before you start investing in your 401k. Number two, budgeting. Budgeting is a huge thing you need to do. You need to know every single number like the back of your hand. You need to know how much money you spend on food each month. You need to know how much money you're spending on shopping, on Amazon. Amazon needs to go, on utilities, on subscriptions, on phone plan. Yes, those numbers might change. And yes, your first month's budget might not be perfect, but you gave me a baseline budget. We're missing things like personal care, missing things like phone bill, missing things like gas payments, Ubers. Build a budget and say, okay, this is what I'm going to try to stick to this month and have left over to go towards the credit card debt. And then, okay, month one, let's analyze, did I hit these goals? Did I not hit these goals? If I didn't hit these goals, why did I not hit these goals? Is it because I went out and got sushi too many times? Is it because I went shopping on Amazon? Why didn't I hit these goals? And readjust them if they need to go up, down, depending on your situation. Obviously, don't make it go up because you want to go buy unnecessary things, but maybe food you need $150 versus your projected $70, and that's a reasonable amount. But non-necessities obviously don't give those budgets, but you need to know those numbers like the back of your hand, because yes, on your spreadsheet, yes, we had a couple, the waxing, the hair, that were the bigger expenses, but everything else was $10, $20, $30, and it doesn't seem like much, but those add up when you have 30, 40 transactions like that every single month. So budgeting is a big thing. Cut out all the things that are not necessary, the Uber Eats, Amazon Primes, things that you are spending money on that you do not 100% need to survive. Number 3, now that we have a budget, we got to figure out how do we create margin in your expenses, in your income and your expenses to afford to live. And you have 2 options when it comes to that. One is increase income, which is great. If you can increase your income, you get more money coming in. That makes you have more free disposable income to put towards paying off debt or towards saving whatever your plan is. Or number 2 is cut expenses. We don't have much to cut. We have some unnecessary expenses, the Uber Eats, the concerts that we can cut a little bit, but you can only cut food budget so much if you're only spending $150 a month. Housing is the biggest expense you have right now. You don't have a car payment, thankfully. You don't have car insurance, gas. If you're in a spot that you can walk, that's great to cut down the transportation costs, but housing is your biggest cost, 65% of your net income, and you want to be around 30%. I know California is more expensive. Maybe it's 40%, but you really need to identify and figure out how do you get your housing down. I know you said you don't want roommates, but at least look at options. You go that route, but at least look at options. What does that look like? How does that affect your financial situation? Does that give you $500 more a month that you can go towards paying off debt, saving money? Is it $1,000? Are there 1-bedroom studios that you can get down that are $1,400 or $1,500, and that opens up $500? You need to look at both options and don't say, hey, I'm going to the 1-bedroom that's cheaper. At least identify the other options and figure out, okay, is it a $500 a month difference? And what does that do to your financial situation? $6,000 a year, if it's that much, that's a big number. That could go towards paying down this credit card debt quickly. That could go towards starting to tackle these student loans. That could go towards building an emergency fund depending on your student loan debt situation. But those are things you at least have to look at and understand to make those decisions. If you don't know the numbers, if you don't know the different situations, and you can play with your budget depending on what your housing expenses are to compare, this is how much money I could spend realistically on food if I don't have a roommate or if I do have a roommate. Then credit cards. No credit cards. Play the credit card game, put you in a bad spot with credit card debt. Let's stop playing that game, cut it up, and revisit that down the line when we have debt paid off, when we have a fully funded emergency fund, and we can stick to a budget. And then that way, you do not find yourself in a situation where you're trying to swipe that card when you cannot afford. And then after that, with all that, is you have to figure out what is your plan to pay off this debt. Credit card debt right now is at a 30.5% interest rate, so that is not cheap. There's no reason to be saving money outside of a small emergency fund, about $1,000, instead of paying off this credit card debt. So save up a first $1,000 in your bank account. That's more money than you have in your bank account right now. Then after that, every single dollar that you have extra should be going towards this credit card debt because you're getting eaten alive by credit card interest rates at 30%. And like I said, it's going to take you 14 years to pay the minimum payment. I don't want you to wake up when you're 57 and still have this credit card debt or just paying off this credit card debt. So you got to figure out how do you get in your budget a margin of $300 or $400 or $500 a month that you can use to pay off this credit card debt as quickly as possible over the next 3 to 6 months. And then once that's done, hey, now we can start allocating that budget either towards student loans or start saving and investing for your future. But paying off debt the credit card debt is very high priority. And then student loans might come next because you said your student loan payments interest might be 20%. And so once you have those numbers, send it to me and I can help you formulate a better plan of what should you attack once you get the credit card debt paid off. But I'll attack the credit card debt first and then understand what is your situation with the student loans. Do you qualify for any plans? Can you refinance those to lower rates? What are your options there? But we need to know the numbers before we can make a final decision on that. It might be, hey, it's going to be a long couple of years to pay off these student loans. Or is there a job that you can get that your employer will help pay for student loan payments as well? There are some employers that do offer some things like that out there. So I'll look at those options too. But does that all make sense?
Yes, it does.
And we could sit here and start talking about investing, but it's, what I'll do is I'll send you some resources on investing. It's difficult to sit here and talk about investing when we don't know the numbers behind the student loans, and it's a large amount of student loans that you have. If the interest rate is high, it doesn't make sense to invest until we get those paid off first because you have some private loans at high interest rates. But once you have that more information, we can chat further about that. But right now, the main situation is we got to figure out how to cut our expenses or increase our income, stick to a budget, start attacking and paying off this credit card debt, and then figuring out what is the plan with the student loans, or do we start building an emergency fund and investing after that? But that all depends on the student loan situation first. So any questions on that?
No.
So Talia, tell me, what is the biggest financial mistake you think you've made in your life?
Probably taking out a lot of student loan debt and it's getting a credit card. Even though I feel like I was sort of duped in getting a credit card because to rent an apartment, you have to have a credit history. And I didn't have any credit history, especially in this country. Yeah, so it was like, well, I don't want to rent to you because you don't have a credit history. I'm thinking, okay, well, I had to get a credit card to build credit history and all that kind of stuff. And I try not to use my credit card. Now I don't even use it at all. But I feel like that was a huge issue. And also my bank, I didn't use it at all. And my bank said, we're going to cancel your credit card if you don't use your credit card. I was like, well, I mean, it's just there for emergency. So you better just say, now I can't use it because I haven't used it. So I had to use it once. And then I just put another payment on it. And then I was like, okay, just so I could keep it.
But then it led to bad financial habits down the line, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it opened up the door. And that's the problem with America is we emphasize credit so much in a lot of ways that are not necessary, and it lands people and opens up the door for bad financial habits. So the student loans, are those all from post-grad, from grad school, or some of those from undergrad as well?
Some from undergrad.
Okay. So we're for undergrad. Okay. That's good to know. So once you have more information on that, we can kind of figure out what is a kind of a better plan for that. But I think right now, the main thing you need to figure out is just understanding your numbers, budgeting, and then figuring out how do you increase your income or decrease your expenses. And increasing your income is going to be applying to a ton of jobs, trying to find a job that'll pay you 60, 70, 80K in California. It's possible, but you're going to have to hustle for that. It's a competitive job market out there. So you're definitely going to have to hustle to do that. And then just understanding how can you better your current finances by cutting unnecessary expenses. So what is one piece of financial advice you kind of wish you had sooner?
Especially about the credit card and about just the banking system, just banking in general. I mean, just knowing that just because a job pays you $50,000 doesn't mean you get $50,000 a year. That's the thing. Because when I look at I look at the net pay, I'm like, what is this? And then taxes, and then but California has its own tax, has a state tax, and I don't know where you are exactly, but California has its own tax, is a state tax, and then you also have income tax and all this other. It's crazy. I wish someone told me that sooner. Sooner.
That's the problem with America is we don't talk about finance. We don't teach it in school, and it kind of sets people up for failure when they get in the real world and they get their first paycheck and they don't know left from right, and they get signed up for the first credit card because they don't know what credit is. What would you tell to someone else in the same situation as you? Because frankly, you're not alone. I mean, there's millions of Americans that have over 6 figures of student loan debt. There's millions of Americans with credit card debt. What would you tell someone watching this is the exact same situation as you?
One, get off of social media, because I think the reason why, no, seriously, I think the reason why so many people, I need to get this, I need to get that. Like even the other day, I was pissed off that someone that I knew got to go to the Pearl Jam concert, and I'm like, I can't go because it's like that fear, that FOMO, and I just think get off of social media, focus on yourself, and really just know that you can make money doing anything, but the thing is, it's having the money. Anybody can make money. I know people who are quote unquote rich and they're still living payment to payment despite being quote unquote rich. And I'm thinking, well, how does that even, it's their spending habits. It's like, I need to have more stuff because if I don't have more stuff, then these people over here won't like me or look at me. I'm not important. I'm not interesting. And it's this whole FOMO society that we live in. So that's what I would tell someone.
It's magnified the Christmas Barbie on social media. So it took what you witnessed in school and elementary school, and now it's plastered on your phone and in your pocket every single day. And I can't agree more with you. Social media has magnified the good side of people's lives. Everyone can go travel the world. Everyone can afford luxury vehicles. Everyone can do this and that, and it makes you want it more. And you don't understand the car payments that people have, the credit card debts they have. It doesn't show that on the Instagram post. Frankly, it would be eye-opening if on your Instagram post you had a tag what your car payment was or how much credit card debt you're in going on that trip. And I think that would open up a lot of people's eyes that, hey, their life's not as glamorous as they're making it seem, and they wouldn't want to live that life with all that stress of the finances. But I could not agree more with that. And lastly, what is probably the biggest lesson that you have from this experience today?
It's just that I really need to fall in love with money. Then I'll be able to have a better budget, be able to save more, and really not have this love-hate relationship with money. Have a love-love relationship, sort of like a marriage. Because I think money's not a bad thing. Because that's what I was told for most of my life and seen, especially in my family. Even my cousin who owns a house is still living paycheck to paycheck. I don't even know. I've never owned a home. He's owned a home and he's struggling. So it's just, we were brought up that money is evil and it's just this negative thing with money and it's just a bad thing and a thing that you should fear. Even if you have too little or too much, you should still fear it. And I'm like, no, why should I fear it? So this has taught me to really just not be afraid of money as I used to be. Really look at my bank statements and not be afraid to look at my bank statements, not be afraid to look at my spending habits and really think, do I need to go see this band? It took me just thinking, I don't really need to do this. Yes, I would love to see Pearl Jam. They're one of my favorite bands. I've been wanting to see them for 30 years, but if I don't ever get to see them, then so what? I just
Hey, you can get out of debt and you can start saving money and start allocating that money in your budget, have a concert line item, and you can do that. But you can do that from a place of stability, a place of financial security versus right now doing it from a place of scarcity and not being able to make ends meet. So I think when you do it from a place of strength, it's a lot more enjoyable going to that concert, a lot more enjoyable enjoying those experiences of traveling. And that's where I want you to get to, is a spot where you can do that. And yeah, it takes a lot. It takes you getting out of debt, building wealth. It requires you to know your numbers. It requires you to understand how much money you're spending and having a plan in place and following it. It's very difficult to build wealth without a plan unless your income is astronomically high and you can afford to not even look at your expenses and still save money every single month. But even then, lifestyle creep can still come up. But it really takes having a plan in place, and anyone can do it. Anyone can build wealth. Anyone can get out of debt. There's people that across America, millions of Americans that are teachers that are in their 20s and their 30s and their 60s that are still working and paying off debt. And everyone's situation is different. So it's personal finance, but it's possible for everyone in this country to build wealth, get out of debt, and enjoy life. So that's what I'm hoping for you. I'm hoping this experience was beneficial to start being eye-opening at looking at your finances, having these conversations, and learning, okay, these are the steps I need to do moving forward. And if I do that, then great. I can start enjoying life and living life and having fun. So
absolutely.
awesome. Well, Talia, any last words that you want to say before we wrap up now?
Thank you for just not being so judgmental. I think that was my biggest fear coming into this. Like, oh God, he's gonna see myself. Why did you spend so much money on Uber Eats? I tell myself that. I say myself that. Like, that's why I'm like, no more Uber Eats. No, that's why I'm like, well, I even have to think, like, if I go see a concert, I'm gonna have to take an Uber there. That's gonna be about $50. And I have to take Uber back. And if I'm lucky, that might be about $50. So that's $100 right there gone. So I have to really think about these things.
We can't change the past. We only analyze and figure out, okay, what can we do differently moving forward?